Let's talk about the risk of leaving your rental properties in your personal name. Imagine you spent your entire life building your rental portfolio to take care of your family and your spouse when you pass away. You've set up so that the cash flow covers all your bills, the equity inside the properties gives you financial security, and you feel pretty confident that your family is going to be taken care of when you pass away. But if those properties are still titled in your personal name, the law in Georgia states that they will still have to go through the probate process, which is a slow process of validating your will before those properties can transfer ownership out to your family. So basically what was meant as a gift just turns into a financial and emotional headache for your spouse. Let's walk through why this happens and how you can set up differently so that your spouse is taken care of in the event that you pass away. So why does this matter? You want your spouse to be financially secure and your kids to inherit your rental portfolio smoothly without any probate delays or lawsuits coming after those assets. But when your rental properties are in your personal name, here are some of the things that happen because of that. The probate process will be delayed 6 to 12 months. Now, normal probate is going to take 9 to 12 months. But when you add a rental portfolio into the mix, it's going to make it more complex and take much longer, so it can make the probate process take 1 to 2 years. And during the probate process, your rental portfolio is effectively frozen. Your family cannot collect cash flow, they cannot evict tenants, they cannot sell or refinance those properties inside the portfolio. Another thing is sudden responsibility for your spouse. And so when you distribute those properties out to your spouse, and let's say that you have been the one that has built the rental portfolio, you've managed tenants, contractors, renovations, maintenance, finances, etc. Now your spouse is the one that has to figure out how to take over all the operations related to the rental portfolio. And if they have not been involved in any way, it's a new skill set for them. And it's likely they're going to be tired and not want to figure out how to do that towards the end of their life. Another problem is going to be if you transfer the ownership to your surviving spouse, they are now going to be exposed to the liabilities related to those rental properties like tenant lawsuits or contractor disputes, so that they could wipe out their assets when you pass away. Now let's picture a better setup, one that protects your spouse from any lawsuits or contractors coming after them. They will avoid the probate process, they'll be able to collect cash flow, etc. Let's talk about some common misunderstandings that real estate investors have. Many landlords assume that I have a will, so it's good enough, my spouse is the obvious heir, and my rental properties are paid off and they have full insurance on them. But here's going to be the truth. The will does not avoid the probate process, and even if your spouse is the obvious heir, they have to wait on the court's approval for the distribution of those assets to go out to your spouse. And insurance covers some liability risk, but does not prevent the delays in the probate process or protect your spouse against contractor disputes. So without a plan, your spouse could be left worrying and waiting on the ownership of those properties to be transferred down to them. So let's talk about what leaving the properties in your name does and does not do for the rental portfolio and your family. When you keep the properties titled in your personal name, what it does do is keep you personally in control over the rental properties, but it also ties you directly to any lawsuits, code violations, or expenses related to those rental properties, and later on your spouse when you transfer the assets over to them. What it does not do is prevent the probate process, protect your spouse from any personal liabilities, or guarantee income or a smooth transition when you pass away. Think of it kind of like holding all of your assets inside of your wallet, and when you pass away, the wallet goes into the court vault, and your family cannot take ownership of that wallet until the court decides that they are able to. So let's talk about how to fix this step by step so you understand fully how to protect your assets, how to protect you and your spouse from the rental portfolio, and how to make sure that the assets are passed down smoothly to your family. The first thing is going to be transferring the rental properties into an LLC. So the LLC is like a protective wrapper around your rental portfolio. What it's going to do is if a lawsuit is coming after one of those rental properties, it will isolate the lawsuit to the LLC and protect your personal assets like your family home, other investment accounts, and your checking and savings. And the LLC operating agreement will allow you to use it as a playbook, so when someone takes over the management of the LLC and the operations inside of it, you can put rules in there like save 10% for finances, and then LLC operating agreement will act as a playbook, so when you pass away and someone's stepping into the management role of that LLC, they can use that as guidelines on how to manage that rental portfolio. So you can put rules in there like save 10% for maintenance, save 10% for capex, put money aside for property taxes before you do distributions, and only sell a property in the event that your spouse needs care. This ensures that when you pass away and someone steps into the managing role of that LLC, they understand fully how to manage the operations inside the LLC to benefit your spouse and later on your kids. That way you can set up so that rental portfolio is managed as if you are the one managing it, because you are the one setting up the rules and frameworks and guidelines for the management of that portfolio. Step 2 is placing the LLC membership interest inside of a revocable trust. This is where estate planning is smoothing out the whole transition process when you pass away. So think of it like nesting dolls. You're putting the rental properties inside the LLC, and then you're putting the LLC inside the revocable revocable trust. While you're alive, you can be the trustee and have full control over the LLC membership interest. But when you pass away, your backup trustee will step in your role as trustee and take over the management of the assets inside the revocable trust, so they will have full control over the LLC membership interest. And when that LLC is inside the revocable trust, it does not have to go through the probate courts when you pass away. It stays inside the revocable trust, and the backup trustee takes over the management of that immediately. Step 3 is going to be using the trust to take care of your surviving spouse throughout the remainder of their life. Now, the way that we're structuring this one is so that your spouse does not have to take over the responsibility of managing the rental portfolio or the LLC when you pass away, because they don't have that skill set. But what we are allowing the assets inside the revocable trust to do is take care of our surviving spouse without giving them that responsibility. And the way that we are doing this is we set up the backup trustee to be someone like one of our kids, so that they can manage that LLC membership interest on behalf of our spouse. That way they can still benefit from the assets inside of that trust. And so we can set up rules inside of that trust document to take care of our surviving spouse. And so as an example, when we have distributions from the LLC coming into the revocable trust, that money would be used to take care of our surviving spouse. And in the event that they need a major expense paid, like they have assisted living that they need to be paying for, then we can sell off properties inside the LLC so that we can pay for the care of our surviving spouse. Now, when we structure everything like this, what we're doing is we're enabling our spouse to be taken care of without burdening them with the responsibility of figuring out how to manage contractors, how to manage tenants, how to do lease agreements, evictions, manage the finances, pay taxes, do maintenance, do upkeep, do capex, all of those things. They don't have to worry about all of that, but they can still be taken care of from the portfolio that you have built throughout your entire life. Now let's talk about the full benefits breakdown of this structure. Now, when we're nesting our rental properties into the LLC and then the LLC into the revocable trust, we're giving our family clarity and protection related to the assets and the distribution out to them. Now, when we put the rental properties into an LLC and then the LLC into the revocable trust, we're making the transition when we pass away of all of our assets much cleaner, much smoother, and we're going to give our family protection from any liabilities related to that rental portfolio. The first one is going to be alleviating the management burden from your surviving spouse. Now, we've set up the operating agreement so that the manager of the LLC can come in and they know exactly how to manage a rental portfolio inside of that LLC. And then we've given rules and frameworks inside of that trust document so that the backup trustee can manage that LLC membership interest on behalf of your surviving spouse. That way they are aligned and you can use the rental portfolio to take care of your surviving spouse. The second one is going to be asset protection. And so when we put the assets inside the revocable trust, when we pass away, the revocable trust turns irrevocable. And the benefit of this is going to be that if your kids have any liabilities coming after them, whether that's a divorce or a lawsuit or creditors coming after them in the event that they lose their jobs, we can structure the revocable trust in such a way that the assets inside the trust are protected from their liabilities. And then the third one is going to be end of life flexibility. So we can set up rules and frameworks inside of this structure so that in the event that your spouse needs extra care, we can sell off properties inside of the rental portfolio to take care of our surviving spouse. And we can also use cash flow distributions from the rental portfolio to take care of them. The fourth one is going to be probate savings. So because your rental portfolio is avoiding the probate process, you don't have all the expenses related to that probate process for those assets. So when you're sending a portfolio through the probate process and your family has to hire a probate attorney, it's going to take 1 to 2 years for the probate process to complete, and it's going to cost your family $5,000 to $15,000. And that's going to be per person that passes away. So the probate process would happen when you pass away, and then would also happen when your spouse passes away if you're not setting up this revocable trust. So that's 2 sets of probate. So the portfolio would have to go through the probate process when you pass away, and then also when your spouse passes away if you're not structuring it in a way to avoid the probate process. The fifth one's going to be family harmony. So you can choose someone to manage the LLC and to be a backup trustee for the trust that is responsible enough to manage the assets inside of that portfolio. Because it's very likely that you have one child who's not as responsible as the other one, and it's likely that you want to choose the responsible one to manage that rental portfolio on behalf of the family. And then the last one's going to be a smooth inheritance. And so when you pass away, you can use the assets inside the revocable trust to take care of your surviving spouse. And then when they pass away, those assets inside the trust will also avoid the probate process, and then you can pass them directly out to your kids, or you can keep them inside the revocable trust to be managed by the responsible child on behalf of all the beneficiaries. So picture this: when you pass away and your surviving spouse is moving on with their life, they need assisted living, but instead of having to wait on the probate process to be able to sell a property, they can sell the property immediately and pay for the care that they are going to need. That way you have a smooth transition, they're fully taken care of, and they don't have to wait and rely on other people like your kids to be able to take care of themselves. They are self-sustaining with the assets that you have built inside of that rental portfolio. Now picture Picture this, your surviving spouse needs assisted living or they need to move into a different location when you pass away, but they're unable to sell the rental properties inside of the probate process in your estate. When you put all of these into the revocable trust, they're able to immediately sell one of those rental properties to pay for the expenses of moving on with their life and structuring their life in a way that makes it feasible for them to live without you. Now, leaving the rental portfolio in your personal name feels easy enough, but it creates risk and unreliability down the road. And so some of the benefits of setting up this estate plan is that when you pass away, the cash flow is going to continue to flow out to your surviving spouse instead of getting locked up in the probate process inside of your estate. It's also going to shield your surviving spouse from any personal liabilities related to the operations inside of that rental portfolio when you pass away. It will avoid the probate process itself, the timeline related to that probate process, and all the costs related to the probate attorneys for both you and your surviving spouse. And it will reduce the amount of conflict that your family has when you pass away when they're trying to figure out how to distribute the assets, who's going to manage them, what we're going to do with those rental properties, etc., because you have outlined exactly what's going to happen to that rental portfolio, how it's going to be used, and who's going to be managing that rental portfolio on behalf of the family. That way you minimize the amount of conflict that happens between the siblings. I will tell you that the largest issue that we have with the probate process is siblings arguing amongst themselves, even when they have gotten along historically and the parents think that they are going to get along when they pass away. So you've built something wonderful. You spent your entire life building out the rental portfolio to take care of your family. If you want help setting up any of this, click link in the bio, fill out the form, and schedule a time to talk to someone on our team.